Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special edition of the Wildcat Extra Roundtable. We're doing a little bit of a senior video today, so joining me are two seniors on the Daily Northwestern staff, starting with a former game day editor at the Daily Northwestern, former football beat writer Josh Walfish, and the current assistant game day editor at the Daily Northwestern, John Paschall. So, guys, let's just talk about, the senior class of this Northwestern football team. Josh, let's start with you. We'll avoid the obvious with the Gator Bowl, but what's been your favorite memory of this senior class?
I'm going to go back to 2 years ago. A season very similar to this. Northwestern riding a 5-game losing streak, into Lincoln, Nebraska, upsetting the Cornhuskers 28-25 in the first meeting between these two teams as Big Ten opponents. And the one lasting memory for me was Kane Coulter keeping it 4th and 1 on the goal line to score a score that put them up 2 scores, and just watch that jubilation from the team after that win. And I think that for me was one of the most sentimental moments outside of the Gator Bowl.
Absolutely. You think about that game, Dan Person went down in the first half, and Kane Coulter really came on the scene in that game and played an amazing second half in Lincoln. Kind of took the reins of the team that day and well into his junior year. Johnny P., what about you?
I'd have to say the Ohio State game this year. I mean, it was everything that this team, the senior class, has worked for. Just building just a buzz around the program, just a national reputation. And, with game day here and all that, I think that's what they accomplished, even though they didn't win the game. And it was a very tough pill to swallow. Just having all those cameras, the publicity around the program, it's something that Coach Fitz and I know this really talented senior class wanted since they stepped foot on Evanston in the freshman year.
No, that's a great point. Obviously this has been a bit of a tough season, 0-6 in the Big Ten. I don't think anyone would have imagined this, especially after, bringing game day here. So, Josh, again, going back to you, what will be your lasting memory of what's going to be, a very tough last year for some of these guys?
Well, I really have, I'll say 2.5 that really stand out to me. The first is, as Johnny P. just mentioned, that Ohio State game, and the atmosphere around the Ohio State game, the student reaction at Ohio State game, better than anything I've ever seen in any single sport at Northwestern in my 4 years here. So that's a really big image. The other thing, and unfortunately it happened to us last weekend, that Drew Dillio's slide just to catch the hold to tie the game. It's those type of breaks that really symbolize Northwestern this season. And I say the half because I think if this senior class is able to beat Illinois that final week of the season, salvage something, win that rivalry game, retain the hat, I think that's going to be a very powerful image to prove that this season wasn't completely lost for the Wildcats.
Absolutely. If you think about the Illinois rivalry last year, that was quite the hurt that NU put on them, and it was certainly a memorable day for the seniors then. Johnny P., what about you? What's something that you'll take away from the season, even if the Wildcats are kind of struggling?
I just keep thinking back to the Nebraska game. As tough as last week was against Michigan, they still had a chance in overtime. They almost recovered that fumble in overtime, which would have ended the game. But with Nebraska, it's one just luck of the draw play and a Hail Mary. It was just so crushing because they, were coming just into a bye. They were so injured. They were basically down to one running back. And they had the game won, 4 seconds left, and just a Hail Mary just breaks everyone's heart. And, people thought this might be a turning point. This is a win that they need in order to get bowl eligible. And the fact that, they weren't able to pull it off because of some luck play is really devastating.
A little bit of a big picture, Josh, you can go first about the answer to this question. What do you think this season ultimately means for the program?
I think it's unfortunately going to be contingent upon next season. If this is a program the next season goes out in a 6-6, 7-5, I think it more shows that last season was a fluke. My ultimate hope and my ultimate belief is that this season is just going to be a blip on the radar, and it's going to be an anomaly more than a pattern. So it's tough to say. From what I've seen in practice, from what I've seen of the heart of this team, I really do think this is just one of those years like Michigan State had last year where nothing went their way. They were so beaten up and just kind of an anomaly of a season. So Fitz is doing a great job on the recruiting trail. So I guess to fully answer the question, I'll say it's an anomaly.
Johnny P., what about you?
It's funny when you look at all these losses really closely. they were so close. They were all heartbreaking. I mean, except for the Wisconsin game, they never really got blown out. And everyone knew that this was a talented team, and I still think they are. They just had a much tougher schedule. So I think, with obviously Venrick hopefully coming back, a very talented 2014 class coming in, and then also, the past couple years of recruiting has gotten really strong in areas like speed. I think the arrow is still pointing up. It's obviously not easy to market, a 5-win, 6-win program, but I don't see the program going downward at all.
And then you guys kind of touched on this a little bit, but just kind of bring it home for the future. Pat Fitzgerald, his future's talked a lot about here, and what do you guys think is the future of this program?
I think that it's a program that's still going to be a perennial bowl team. Like I said, I think in that respect will be an anomaly and a blip on the radar. This is still going to be, unfortunately, a program that is going to, every once in a while, have that great year contend for a Big Ten title. But I don't know if they're ever going to be that consistent Big Ten threat, because I think it's going to take a little bit for Fitz to get the recruits that are not going to fold under pressure. The recruits that Ohio State's getting, Michigan's getting, the people that have the spotlight on them 24/7 are used to the pressure. And I think that's unfortunately what happened this season. Was it's a team that wanted the pressure, wanted the spotlight, wanted all that comes with it, but then they just couldn't handle it. So I think that's probably going to be the next 5 to 10 years. But I do think if Fitz continues to build a great program at Northwestern, they'll eventually get the type of talent that won't fold under the pressure and can actually be a Big Ten team, a Big Ten contender on a consistent basis.
I'm really interested to see how they handle the new divisions, because I know they caught a little bit of a break in terms of being split up in the right area. They don't have to deal with the Michigans, the Ohio States, the Michigan States all the time. We know that they can handle Nebraska. They came so close this year, so close last year, and then we beat them in Lincoln in 2011. And then the only other team is Wisconsin, who, yes, we've had trouble with. So if we can overcome that Wisconsin hurdle, a trip to Indianapolis is definitely possible for a lot of years. And the more talent we bring in, and 2014 is going to be a really incredible year. It may not happen next year in terms of seeing that talent on the field, but 2016, 2017, we're going to see some really good Northwestern Wildcat football players.
All right, guys, I'll get you out of here on this. Why don't you tell me who you think is going to win this Saturday? Obviously, Northwestern's got Michigan State coming up. Probably one of the toughest games on the schedule.
I joked with the way both defenses are playing this game that's going to 9-6, kind of like Saturday. That being said, Northwestern's going to struggle offensively. If they couldn't take advantage of the Iowa defense or the Michigan defense or allow some of the other weaker defense in the Big Ten, what's to say they're going to take care of the best defense in the country? So I'll take the Spartans 20-3.
I think it's going to be a very close game. I think the Wildcats will have a couple of tricks up their sleeves. I mean, at this point, they have nothing to lose. They need this win. This is, literally a must-win. Coach Fitz hates to call games must-wins, but this is a must-win. So I think they're going to come out with a couple surprises. But in the end, I just think the Spartans' defense is too good, and their offense is clicking enough to get wins. I know earlier in the season they were struggling mightily, but I'm going to take the Spartans 16-13.
All right, great. These guys are on the record. Thank you for watching the Wildcat Extra Senior Roundtable. Make sure to stick with us this weekend as we have all your coverage on game day. Thank you, guys.